And it's Ken Kraetzer for the West Point Football Report by Sons of the American Legion Radio, here with John Chuhran, and we are getting excited about the start of the Army football season at Michie Stadium on Saturday, as the Black Knights will host the University of Buffalo Bulls. Buffalo coming in after a win over Duquesne on Saturday. John, this is the first game of the year for Army. A revitalized Army program under new coach Jeff Monken coming in from Georgia Southern with his staff. And they're bringing a new outlook to the team. And as we were just talking about, a new training regiment has been brought to the West Point football team that really changes the potential of this team.
Absolutely. Thanks to General Caslin, the superintendent of the academy, the cadets were allowed to go and do their training early in the season, early at the end of last school year, so that this year, since mid-June, they've been able to work together, stay together, train together, and it's really paid off so far in training. They've gained 1,400 pounds as a team, an average of about 14 pounds per player. That's certainly going to serve them well as the season wears on, because in past years we've seen the Army team actually wear down, really not be able to sustain a true fighting weight as the season goes on. So it's really looking good for them as the season opens up.
Well, as we saw last year and throughout college football, the size of the offensive lines that teams have, Buffalo actually brings in a very big offensive line, averaging 316 pounds per player, led by a senior center who's at 6'2", 312, Trevor SAL. And that's a big difference for Army. When you look at the center this year, Matt Eugenberg, the junior from Illinois, he's coming in at 309. He actually was 285 in the spring roster, and through training and nutrition has been able to gain over 25 pounds. That makes a big difference. It reminds me a little bit of the center Army had a few years ago, Will Wilson, who played in the game against Northwestern that Army won at Michie Stadium. And he came in at about 6'4", 285. And he was the biggest guy in the Army team by far. But this Army roster's got 3 players that are over 300 pounds. And that makes a big difference on the offensive line. The left tackle is another junior, number 73, Drew Hennessy, who's 6'7", 283. The left guard's a senior, Steve Shoemaker from Connecticut, 6 foot 282. The right guard is a sophomore, Stefan Norio, 6'3", 293. And the right tackle is a senior, Todd McDonald, the smallest of the group at 6 foot 260. So this is giving Army a new look that should help them. Certainly on the offense. The offense this year is going to be coordinated by Brent Davis. And Brett had been at Georgia Southern with Coach Jeff Monken. And again, is going to run the option offense with a few differences. It's going to be, as he says, a fullback-oriented offense. They're going to have a tight end, which we haven't seen in quite a few years at West Point. But boy, do they have experience in their backfield.
They absolutely do, Ken. I mean, they've got their top 5 runners from last year are all back this year, and that's led by Terry Baggett, who led the team with 1,100 yards last year. So that's looking tremendous for them.
And of course, the fullback who we've watched play since he was a freshman, Larry Dixon from Washington State, Bremerton, Washington. And he's also one of the co-captains of the team, along with Jeff Bacon. And Larry Dixon's a player we watched grow, and he's been noted as being very good in the Corps of Cadets. He's one of the leaders of the Corps in the team that runs the whole administration of the Corps. Very, very well respected, and just a tough as nails fullback. I say he's got a chance to play on Sundays. After his military duties, he's got that potential, and he's also increased his weight this year. He's coming in at 239 pounds. That's a pretty big fullback for Army.
Absolutely, and let's not forget about Raymond Maples, who gained 123 yards before being injured in the 3rd game of last year. So they've got a very strong running back core.
Yeah, and Ray Maples, of course, has run for 1,000 yards twice in his Army career. He has a chance to finish his career at Army in in the top 4 or 5 runners in Army history. And just I think what's going to happen is they're going to be able to share the workload a little bit between Terry Baggett and Ray Maples, and then also number 19, Tony Giovanelli, another senior who is a very good player. We've seen him in the scrimmages break quite a few plays. And then let's not forget a key player who maybe doesn't get the big numbers but makes the big plays, and that being the senior from Texas, Trenton Turrentine.
Absolutely.
And Trenton, I was telling him the other day we talked, and that on a couple of the touchdown runs that Terry Baggett had last year against Eastern Michigan, I was taking a lot of photos standing behind one of the end zones, and on one of the plays, it was so clear that it was a block made by Trenton Turrentine that broke the play for a 60-yard touchdown run. And so he's one of those guys, number 10. Keep your eye on him because he can really make a difference. And then, of course, we have the 2 quarterbacks. The starter is going to be Angel Santiago, the senior from Fontana, California. And Angel has gone into some tough situations, first substituting for Trent Steelman. And then last year, A.J. Sure was expected to be the starter but got hurt. And so Angel played most of the season, played very effectively. He prefers really running the ball, kind of a Trent Steelman type player versus throwing the ball.
And A.J. Sure, of course, injured his hamstring in practice this year, so he's been limited, and that basically opened the door and gave Santiago a clear sailing to take over that one. And the interesting thing is that Coach Monken, in his press conference earlier this week, indicated he wants to stay with one quarterback. He wants to focus on a one quarterback situation so that the defense and the offense know what's coming out there on a regular basis. They want to be able to switch over in case one of the quarterbacks gets hurt, but they don't want them to constantly thinking, gee, do I have to change? Do I have to do something different? Which quarterback is in there at a given time? He doesn't want them to have to think about that, so they're going to focus with, right now, Angel Santiago as the starting quarterback.
And Angel really has been healthy, and he played throughout the August training camp. A.J. Sure missed the first couple of weeks, and so Sure is probably a player who's a better passer, and that, I think, fits into the kind of offense that we're going to see from Brent Davis, the offensive coordinator, going forward, is one that's more of a mixed, balanced offense. We've seen a lot of rollout passes in the scrimmages, a few deep passes. What I didn't see a lot of this year, John, were pitch outs. And that was a play that Army broke, especially going to Ray Maples, a lot of pitch outs for big gains, but it also led to a few fumbles, a few very costly fumbles along the way.
The option is just an essential element of Army football. It'll be interesting to see what Coach Monken tries to bring to it, but the reality is that the option is necessary if Army's going to be successful. So the question now is whether or not, under the new system, the new plan, the option fits in.
So that'll be interesting to see the differences in how Army runs the offense this year. And as we said, they've got a tight end into the mix, and which is a change to what they've done in the past. So we'll have an interesting time at Michie Stadium watching the offense. I'm pretty confident the offense is going to put points on the board this year. I would say you go in expecting the offense to score 3 to 4 touchdowns a game, given their consistency. The question for Army is going to be how the defense performs. And for the first time, they've got a lot of seniors on defense. The whole defensive line is seniors, led by the nose tackle, Richard Glover. Again, a tough-as-nails player. I had a chance to talk with Richard a couple of weeks ago after a scrimmage, and he is a very determined player.
Well, it's not going to be easy because Buffalo has a tremendous offensive team. I mean, they last week at their opening game, Ron Willoughby, a man who'd only caught 3 catches up until last week, he caught 10 catches last week for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their quarterback, Joe Licata, he threw 25 of 36 for 298 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, Anthony Taylor, a running back, he had his 3rd career 100-yard game, and he managed to gain 115 yards and also score a pair of touchdowns. So this is a team that is capable of scoring points. It'll be interesting to see how Army is able to stand up to them given the fact, as you pointed out, they have that strong offensive line, that big offensive line, how will Army be able to handle this team that is definitely an offensive threat?
Well, I think one of the factors for Army is the experience in the defensive backfield. Both of the safeties, Jeff Bacon and Hayden Pierce, are seniors. They've played a lot of football for Army. So they're strong up the middle. At the corners, two, I call them young veterans. Chris Carnegie is a sophomore, a junior, and Josh Jenkins, number 3. They are both very good football players. And in the past, I know Army was concerned because they were playing a lot of freshmen and sophomores on defense, and it was costly. But now they're playing a whole bunch of experienced players. The linebackers are an interesting group. I mean, you have an end in Joe Drummond, who's a senior, number 54. And the strong side linebacker, Stephen Riccardi, from near us in Harrison, New York. Didn't play a lot last year, but he's got his opportunity this year. The inside linebackers are really kind of the question mark for Army, with 2 sophomores penciled in to start. Andrew King, number 11, who's from Queens, New York, and Jeremy Timpf, number 39, the weak side linebacker. They are not big, but they're quick, and Army needs to have playmaking inside linebackers. In the past, we've had people, Steve Anderson, Steve Erzinger, and Jeff Bacon played the inside linebacker before being moved to his natural position at strong safety. And in most defenses, the middle linebacker really should make most of the plays. If the defensive line is holding the blocks, the inside linebacker should be making the plays, certainly those coming up the middle. That was one of the problems in the Navy game last year. Navy's big offensive line was pushing Army's defensive line around a lot of the plays. So that's going to be the difference, the larger size. Mike Eugeni on the defensive line is now up to 297. 6'3". We had a chance to talk a little bit at spring practice, and he is a key guy, a leader on that defense, and can really be a difference maker. I always like to see number 99, Bobby Coe, out there from California. He really emerged as a key player for Army.
One of those players who tends to focus on where the ball is. I mean, he always seems to be in the middle of where the action needs to be, and he's a tough ball player. I mean, he's the kind of player with the right attitude who really gets things done.
Absolutely. So these are the players that are going to make a difference. I mean, I don't think Army fans have gone to Michie Stadium and seen a team with this much experience. And then a new coach who brings a way to really perfect the offense. And I think the defense really needed work and needed a reorganization. I'm sure Jeff Bateman is going to be able to do that. Jay Bateman is going to be able to bring that as a defensive coordinator.
Well, you and I last year noticed the big change last year was after the Stanford game. The Stanford game took so much out of them last year that I don't think they ever fully recovered from that game. And this year, I think with the extra weight that they've been able to put on by staying on post and being able to gain weight and work out in the weight room and average 14 pounds per player in terms of weight gain, I think that's really going to serve them well as the season progresses.
Well, it's certainly the conditioning and the added strength through the season. As you said, John, the Stanford game, there were so many injuries that I thought the team never played as well last year as they did in the Stanford game when they it was a competitive game into the fourth quarter against a team which the Army guys came off the field and said, hey, they were playing NFL guys.
That's right. That's right. And speaking of NFL guys, there are 2 Army players right now in the NFL that are worth watching. We've got Colin Mooney with the Tennessee Titans and Josh McNary, who's with the Indianapolis Colts. So Army is making its roads in the NFL these days. As
well as our friend Alejandro Villanueva, who was in training camp with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was signed on the last cut day of the year by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we wish him the very best. Again, a tough-as-nails player and someone who served our country so gallantly overseas on a number of deployments, and he's going to bring that experience to the NFL. The whole question with Alejandro is what position he's going to play, because he's been moved around all through his college career, even to the point of being a wide receiver.
He's such a tall guy that they always seem to gravitate to a chance where they can try and take advantage of his height.
So he played some linebacker with the Eagles, and I understand they're looking at him on the offensive line with the Steelers. But we'll see. Wish him the best of an opportunity in the NFL. So again, just looking at the Army schedule after this week, they have the big trip out to Stanford, as we like to say. Yeah, that's Stanford, ranked as high, number 9 in the country, and from the Pac-10. And we'll see. That's going to be an interesting game. But then we get into a schedule to go out to Winston-Salem to play Wake Forest, a team that they have matched up pretty well with. They had a very competitive game there last year. A disappointing game at Michie Stadium and a loss last year.
Right.
But that's a team. There's a new coaching staff there at Wake Forest. So we will see. That's going to be an interesting one. Then an interesting game, they're going to go up to Yale. It's a commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the Yale Bowl. And I haven't been up to the Yale Bowl since one of the Jet Giant games. And it's going to be fun to go see one of the historic places of college football. And then 2 tough home games, Ball State, again from the Mid-America Conference, and Rice coming in back-to-back. Another Mid-America Conference game at Kent State. And then the big one after the break week, Air Force coming into Michie Stadium. All the fun of the academy rivalries take place, and if you haven't been to one of those games, it's really a lot of fun.
It's a special event, absolutely.
And Army's got a few scores to settle with Air Force too. Although I have to remind people, the Air Force Academy was based on the plan from West Point.
Right.
And, the ranks are the same in the Air Force as Army. And at West Point, up until the start of the Air Force Academy, many of the cadets learned to fly. And many of the cadets from the 1930s and 40s were pilots, many in World War II. Then we have our game down at Yankee Stadium. Go back to Yankee Stadium, which is always fun.
That's on November 8th.
Against Connecticut, and Connecticut got off to a real tough start on the season against Brigham Young at home.
Right.
And so that is going to be an interesting game for Army. Then going out to Western Kentucky, Les Bobby Petrino, who coached them last year and now is at Louisville.
Right.
And they are a very good team. And then we have Fordham coming back. Fordham is building up its program. I mean, a little bit like Buffalo. Buffalo's built up its program in recent years. Fordham is looking to build up its program. And they're going to be a lot stronger than the team we saw play in a blizzard several years ago.
Yeah, that team was certainly a team that was in transition, that was trying to establish itself, and they were still searching for who they were. They're a much more formed team now.
Yeah, and then, of course, the big one in December 13th down in Baltimore at M&T Stadium, the home of the Ravens from the NFL. Navy, a very good team again. They played very well last week against Ohio State. And, in fact, they were leading the game 7-6 at the half. And, of course, they have that phenomenal quarterback, Keenan Reynolds, who is just another, the epitome of an option quarterback, can run the ball, can throw the ball. And he runs the offense so well.
A stunning leader as well. He's just a fine person representing the United States and the United States military.
Yeah, and I remember standing on the sideline watching him break Army's heart 2 years ago with that long pass in the fourth quarter when Army thought they had the game coming. But so it's going to be fun. Great group of players on the Army team led by the 2 captains who we've gotten to know personally over the years. Great young men. Larry Dixon is going to be a great officer. He comes from actually a Navy family. And then also Jeff Bacon, who is a player who always has a smile on his face.
Yes.
And but he's become a leader. He's a great athlete. The move to free safety really helped him because he's got the speed and quickness to play from sideline to sideline. So I think you're going to see a lot of play from number 6 on defense for Army. And then, that big backfield for Army, Angel Santiago, starting quarterback, Larry Dixon, fullback, Terry Baggett, or Ray Maples. I mean, Army has got 2 phenomenal halfbacks that they can interchange during the course of the game. And then a host of others, Trent Turrentine,
Running backs are a lot like starting pitchers in baseball. You can never have enough of them because invariably somebody's going to get hurt sometime.
So it's going to be interesting. The Chief of Staff of the Army is going to be at the game on Saturday, General Ray Odierno, West Point graduate, and
Huge West Point football fan.
very excited about the team as always and what it represents, all of those who serve in the U.S. Army across the world. And the start of the Jeff Monken era, we've got a chance to, of course, meet Coach Monken on several occasions. Very determined guy, very purposeful, very organized.
And as a man who was an assistant at Navy for 6 years, perhaps the right man to figure out how to beat Navy.
Yeah, so he's got academy experience, so he knows what the players are going through in terms of the commitments to military duty and commitments to a very high standard of academics while playing a top Division I program.
And as you and I talked about before we put on air today, he just came back from a recent trip with General Caslen to Afghanistan, so he fully buys into the concept that football may be a part of these cadets' learning experience, but it's certainly not the most important part.
Well, also, and what the team represents and how important it is to the alumni serving overseas and to the U.S. military serving overseas. Also want to say hi to Ray McCartney, who is joined the staff. He actually came from Wake Forest, where he had been an assistant coach for over a dozen years, and he is from Pelham, where I'm from. Actually went to high school with him, and he and his brother Drew played a little football with them. And I know Ray has brought a lot of experience both in coaching the defensive line, and some of the defensive linemen told me how much he's been able to help them. Rich Glover said that specifically this year, and also with recruiting. So we just want to give a special welcome to our friend Ray McCartney from Pelham, New York, and Westchester to West Point. His father was an Army veteran, served in the Battle of the Bulge, Charlie McCartney, and a very distinguished veteran. So tomorrow, 12 o'clock kickoff, big crowd expected. West Point Band will be there. If weather permitting, we'll have a nice parachute drop. Parade of cadets early in the morning, and the start of the new era. It's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It should be a tremendous day. Hopefully the weather will hold off. Right now the threat of storms is late in the day, and hopefully it'll hold off till after the game.
Well, we'll hope for that, and I know the team's preparing for any eventuality. Coach Monken doesn't like to practice in the indoor facility. He wants to be outdoor every day that's possible, and so that's part of the game is all weather. But anyway, looking forward to seeing everybody at Michie Stadium on Saturday for the start of the season, and we'll be giving reports throughout the season on the Army football team. And so for John Chuhran, this is Ken Kraetzer for the West Point Football Report, produced by Sons of the American Legion Radio, Squadron 135 in White Plains, New York. Have a good day, and go Army.